Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now. Buckle up, football fanatics, because what you're about to witness is one of the most explosive, controversial, and absolutely jaw-dropping press conferences in recent NFL memory. Shedeur Sanders just sat down at the podium after his historic performance in Cleveland, and what came out of his mouth has sent shockwaves through the entire league. We're talking about a young quarterback who just got absolutely disrespected by his own coaching staff, who delivered a legendary performance only to have it overshadowed by the most baffling coaching decision of the season, and who is now making it crystal clear that he knows exactly what happened and he's not going to pretend otherwise. This isn't your typical diplomatic, politically correct, say all the right things press conference that we usually get from NFL players who are coached to never say anything controversial or rock the boat. No, this is raw emotion, unfiltered truth, and a young man who just experienced one of the most frustrating moments of his professional career, speaking his mind in a way that's going to have consequences, start conversations, and force the Cleveland Browns organization to answer some very uncomfortable questions about what the hell they're thinking with their play calling and game management. Before we dive into the absolute bombshells that Shedeur dropped at that podium, let's recap exactly what led to this moment, because the context is absolutely essential to understanding why he's so fired up and why fans across the entire NFL are rallying behind him and demanding accountability from the Browns coaching staff. This wasn't just any game, this wasn't just any performance, and this wasn't just any questionable coaching decision. This was potentially career-defining stuff that could impact Sanders' trajectory for years to come. Shedeur Sanders threw for 364 yards in this game. He accounted for 4 total touchdowns, 3 through the air and 1 on the ground. He completely and thoroughly outplayed Cam Ward, the #1 overall pick who was supposed to be the superior quarterback, the safer choice, the more NFL-ready prospect. Sanders made Ward look ordinary by comparison, showing superior decision-making, better accuracy, more poise under pressure, and an ability to elevate everyone around him. This was the kind of performance that should cement your status as the unquestioned starter, that should earn you trust and respect from your coaching staff, that should result in the ball being in your hands when the game is on the line. Instead, when the Browns needed to convert a 2-point conversion to tie the game and send it to overtime, when they needed someone to make the play of the game and give them a chance to win, the coaching staff took Shedeur Sanders off the field. They benched him. They removed their best offensive player from the most important play of the entire game, and the result was predictably disastrous, some kind of botched gadget play that had no chance of succeeding, and that left everyone watching scratching their heads and wondering what in the world they just witnessed. So now Sanders is sitting at this podium, trying to be professional, trying to say the right things, trying to be a good teammate and not throw anyone under the bus, but you can hear in his voice and see in his body language that he's absolutely seething underneath that composed exterior. And when the questions start coming, when reporters start probing about what happened and how he feels about it, the facade starts to crack and the truth starts coming out. When asked about being taken off the field after driving down the field and scoring, giving his team the opportunity to tie the game, Sanders tried to play it diplomatic at first. He said he was thankful they scored, acknowledged that football isn't always about having the ball in your hands as the quarterback, mentioned that sometimes you have to run the ball or kick field goals. He was trying to be the good soldier, trying to say what he's supposed to say as a team player who doesn't question coaching decisions publicly. But then came the question that really got to the heart of the matter. Did you wish you had the ball in your hand in that moment to tie the game? Sanders' response was telling, even in its attempt at diplomacy. He said if he's out there on any play, of course he would wish he had the ball in his hands. But that's not what football is sometimes. You could hear the frustration bleeding through even as he tried to maintain that professional veneer. And then came the absolute bombshell that has everyone talking, the moment where Sanders couldn't hold back anymore and let slip what he was really thinking. When asked if the play had worked in practice, Sanders said something absolutely devastating. No, we just called it in the game and it didn't work in practice. Let that sink in for a moment. They called a play in the most critical moment of the game, when everything was on the line, that hadn't even worked in practice. They benched their 364-yard quarterback for a play they knew didn't work. Shedeurs then said what everyone watching was thinking: "I don't think you call plays in a game that didn't work in practice." This is as close to calling out your coaching staff as you can get without explicitly saying, "My coaches are idiots who don't know what they're doing." He's essentially telling the entire football world that the Browns coaching staff made an indefensible decision, calling a failed practice play in the most important moment of the game instead of trusting their quarterback who had been making plays all day long. The anger and frustration became even more apparent when Shedeurs started talking about what was working for him during the game. He credited God, talked about staying mentally clear despite confusion and adversity, and discussed how important it is to maintain mental closeness to his faith when things are chaotic. But you could tell there was subtext there, an underlying message about the dysfunction and confusion surrounding the team and the coaching decisions being made. When asked about his interception and bouncing back from it to lead 2 touchdown drives in the final minutes, Shedeurs showed remarkable self-awareness and maturity. He acknowledged feeling like the offense was stagnant, that he was trying to create a spark and make something happen, and that as time goes on and he gains more experience, those types of decisions will become less frequent. He knows his dad Deion is probably mad at him for forcing that throw. He knows the team was disappointed, but he also understands that young quarterbacks sometimes make those mistakes when they feel pressure to create plays. But here's where things really got interesting, where Shedeurs' frustration with the media and the broader narrative around him started to bubble over. When asked if his receiver was the intended target on a touchdown throw, Shedeurs got visibly annoyed with what he clearly felt was a stupid question. The reporter tried to clarify, asking about the whole play design rather than just that specific throw, and you could see Shedeurs getting more agitated. And then it happened. The moment that's going to be replayed on every sports show, dissected by every analyst, and debated by every fan. Shedeurs looked directly at the assembled media and said something that you almost never hear from NFL players. These dudes, these reporters, be asking idiotic-ass questions. Why don't y'all go ask Kevin Stefanski some real damn questions? Why don't y'all go ask Tommy Rees some real damn questions about what's going on with this sabotage job? Why don't y'all go ask that? Sabotage job. Shedeurs just used those exact words to describe what his own coaching staff is doing to him. He didn't dance around it, didn't use coded language, didn't try to be diplomatic. He flat out accused his coaches of sabotaging him, and he called out the media for not asking the tough questions of the people who actually deserve to be questioned. This is unprecedented stuff from a rookie quarterback, the kind of public criticism of coaching that usually only happens when players are on their way out of an organization or have completely given up on the situation. Shedeurs continued, "Let's stop pussyfooting around and playing games. Go ask the real questions. What we talking about here, man? Get some real ones in there. Let me in there so I can ask some questions. What's going on with y'all? What's popping?" This is a young man who is absolutely fed up with the nonsense, who has had enough of being undermined and disrespected, and who is ready to start calling people out publicly because the behind-the-scenes approach clearly isn't working. The commentary over this clip was absolutely on point. We saw this at CU. This is the thing. We knew what he was. We knew what he was. Y'all were lying about him. Y'all were acting like he wasn't smart enough to comprehend the playbook and all of these insulting BS narratives y'all started. We saw him lead Colorado on a 90-yard drive with a minute left to win a game. We saw all of this already. We already knew what time it was with 12. Y'all were lying and in denial about what the boy could do. And now you look stupid. This captures the frustration that so many people feel about how Shedeurs has been treated throughout this entire process. The pre-draft narrative was that he wasn't smart enough, wasn't mentally tough enough, couldn't handle NFL defenses, was just riding his father's coattails. None of that was ever true, and everyone who actually watched him play at Colorado knew it wasn't true. But the media ran with those narratives anyway, and now that he's proving all of them wrong in spectacular fashion, those same people are acting surprised and asking dumb questions instead of holding the coaching staff accountable for their terrible decisions. When Sanders was asked about his demeanor and his ability to fight through adversity, his response was telling, "I've been this way." He's not showing something new or different. This is who he's always been. This is the competitor who led comeback drives at Colorado, who thrived under pressure, who elevated his game when the stakes were highest. The only people surprised by this are the people who weren't paying attention or chose to believe false narratives instead of watching the actual tape. Sanders talked about finding his happy place mentally, about praying and talking to God throughout the week to get back to that mental space where he can perform at his highest level. He discussed the dispute with his receiver, Jerry Jeudy, from the previous week, how they both moved past it with faith and forgiveness, how they came together as teammates and left all the negativity behind. And the result was that spectacular connection for a touchdown, a moment that brought joy to Jeudy after a difficult season and showed the power of unity and putting team first. When asked if he feels more in command now, if it feels more like his team, Sanders gave an incredibly mature and philosophical answer. "I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. That's just the situation I'm in, and I'm fine with that. I love that, because my story and everything inspires people to make sure, even if they're in uncomfortable positions and situations, to stay on course and keep that mental strong and be able to push through adversity, knowing that you'll be able to see the other side one day." This is a young man with remarkable perspective and wisdom beyond his years. He understands that his journey, his struggles, his perseverance through disrespect and being underestimated can inspire others who are going through similar situations. He's not just playing for himself, he's playing for everyone who's ever been doubted, everyone who's ever been told they're not good enough, everyone who's ever had to fight for opportunities they deserved. That's powerful stuff, and it speaks to a level of maturity and purpose that most players twice his age don't possess. Sanders talked about the excitement he felt when he scored that rushing touchdown and threw the game-tying touchdown pass, bringing the Browns back from being down 2 scores in the final minutes. He said he's always felt excitement from the fans since draft day, but the deepest excitement came from within himself. From knowing he was getting into the end zone, from making that a habit, from doing something that's new to him at this level. There's a humility there, an appreciation for the moment and the opportunity that's incredibly endearing and shows he's not taking anything for granted. But make no mistake, underneath all of that professionalism, underneath all of those measured responses and diplomatic answers, Shedeur Sanders is absolutely furious about what happened. He knows he should have been on the field for that 2-point conversion. He knows the coaching staff made an indefensible decision. He knows they called a play that didn't work in practice at the most critical moment of the game, and he's done pretending that's acceptable or understandable. The use of the word sabotage is particularly significant and inflammatory. That's not a word you throw around casually. That's an accusation of intentional undermining, of deliberately setting someone up to fail. Sanders isn't saying his coaches made a mistake or used poor judgment. He's saying they sabotaged him. That's a nuclear accusation that's going to force the Browns organization to respond in some way, whether they want to or not. The call-out of the media is also significant because Sanders is essentially telling reporters to do their jobs. Stop asking him stupid questions about individual plays and start asking the coaches why they're making decisions that defy all logic and common sense. Stop being complicit in allowing this dysfunction to continue by not holding the people in power accountable. Stop giving the coaching staff a pass while putting all the scrutiny on the players who are actually performing well. The commentary suggesting that Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees should be escorted out of the building immediately reflects how a significant portion of the fan base and the broader football community feels right now. When you have a quarterback throw for over 360 yards, account for 4 touchdowns, lead 2 clutch scoring drives in the final minutes, and completely outplay the #1 overall pick, and your response is to bench him for the most important play of the game in favor of a gadget play that didn't even work in practice, you deserve to be fired on the spot. That's not hindsight bias. That's not overreaction. That's a completely justified response to catastrophic coaching incompetence. What makes this situation even more frustrating is that this isn't an isolated incident. This is a pattern that's been developing over weeks of Shedeur Sanders being the starting quarterback. Every time he gets to the goal line, they try to take the ball out of his hands. He's been practicing with second and third string offensive linemen instead of the starting unit. He wasn't given first-team reps initially. There's been a consistent theme of the coaching staff not fully trusting him or supporting him, even as he continues to perform at a high level and prove that he deserves that trust. The question now is what happens next? How does the Cleveland Browns organization respond to their rookie quarterback, essentially accusing them of sabotage in a public press conference? How do the coaches handle this situation when they come into the facility on Monday? Do they address it head-on? Do they try to smooth things over privately? Or do they double down and create an even bigger rift? And most importantly, do they learn from this disaster and start putting Sanders in better positions to succeed? Or do they continue with the same patterns that led to this mess in the first place? For Shedeur Sanders, this press conference might be a defining moment in his young career. He took a stand, he spoke his truth, he refused to play the political game and pretend everything is fine when it clearly isn't. That takes courage, especially for a rookie who's supposed to be deferential to coaches and veterans and organizational hierarchy. But sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. You have to demand respect. You have to make it clear that you won't accept being disrespected or undermined. And that's exactly what Sanders did. The football world is now watching Cleveland with even more intense scrutiny than before. Every play call will be analyzed, every decision will be questioned, every interaction between Sanders and the coaching staff will be dissected for signs of tension or dysfunction. The Browns can't sweep this under the rug or pretend it didn't happen. Their rookie quarterback just accused them of sabotage on national television, and they're going to have to answer for it one way or another. For fans of Shedeur Sanders and believers in his talent, this press conference was simultaneously infuriating and inspiring. Infuriating because it confirmed what many suspected, that he's being undermined by his own coaching staff for reasons that have nothing to do with his performance or ability. But also inspiring because he refused to be silenced, refused to play along with the charade, and made it clear that he knows his worth and won't accept being treated as less than he deserves. The broader implications for the NFL are significant as well. If coaches can sabotage talented players without consequences, if organizations can mismanage young quarterbacks and destroy their development without accountability, if political considerations and ego can override what's best for winning football games, then something is fundamentally broken in how the league operates. Players deserve better than that. Fans deserve better than that. The integrity of the game deserves better than that. Shedeur Sanders put up a historic performance, completely dominated the conversation around rookie quarterbacks, proved every doubter wrong, and showed the entire football world that he's the real deal. And his reward was being benched for the most important play of the game in favor of a gadget play that his coaches knew didn't work because it had already failed in practice. If that's not sabotage, if that's not completely indefensible incompetence, then words have lost all meaning. The next few days and weeks in Cleveland are going to be absolutely fascinating. How do you put this genie back in the bottle? How do you repair a relationship between a quarterback and coaching staff after public accusations of sabotage? How do you move forward productively when trust has been shattered so publicly and completely? These are questions without easy answers, and the Browns are going to have to figure it out quickly if they want to salvage what should be an exciting young quarterback's development and career trajectory. One thing is absolutely certain. Shedeur Sanders isn't going to go quietly. He's not going to accept being disrespected. He's not going to pretend everything is fine when it isn't. and he's not going to let his coaches sabotage him without calling it out and demanding accountability. That might make him unpopular with some people in the building. It might create tension and awkwardness, but it also shows a backbone and self-respect that will serve him well throughout his career. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it might have consequences. And that's exactly what Shedeur Sanders just did. The football world is behind him. Fans are demanding answers. The media is starting to ask the tough questions he called for, and the Browns organization is now in an impossible position of their own making. They can either acknowledge they screwed up, make changes, and start properly supporting their talented young quarterback, or they can dig in, create an even bigger mess, and potentially ruin what could be a franchise-altering talent. The choice is theirs, but the whole world is watching, and nobody's going to let them off easy if they continue down this path of sabotage and dysfunction. Shedeur Sanders just had his Jerry Maguire moment, and there's no going back now.